Thank you so much for doing this.
No problem.
I know it was sort of a last-minute change that we had to come up with, but it's just so amazing. I mean, Jess is not here herself, so I think it gives us an opportunity to say how amazing she is.
Definitely.
I mean, she's been on a BBC 100 Women this year. She's incredible, and what she's come up with and the foundation of Climate Cafe is absolutely incredible. And I was just remembering how we sort of helped Jess with one of the first climate cafes at Glasgow. For me, that was an amazing experience. So, Catherine, I'm going to ask you about the Climate Cafe. And how do you think has Climate Cafe evolved since its inception, and what impact has it had on local communities and the broader climate movement?
Yeah, no, thank you, Shika, and thank you for having me here. So Climate Cafe, it was founded by Jess up in rural Scotland in a tiny community in 2015. And it was inspired because she, as a climate reality leader, was doing a Truth in 10 presentation, which is what we're all trained at, anybody wearing the little green badge. And that basically they found that the community just needed a space to talk about climate and to really have like where anybody could ask questions. It's not for experts, and it's kind of just for the community to be there. We've heard a lot about community today, actually, from all the different speakers across all the different areas, which I think is interesting. So it's allowing all those areas to kind of come together. So she founded it, and they kind of met on, either fortnightly or monthly basis just to talk about different initiatives within their community. From there, it just grew organically, basically. And what's amazing is it's now on every single continent except Antarctica. So they're all across the world. Jess supports them with her hub and through their program within the community, or within the cafe, to basically grow them very specifically in every different community in the cities and towns and things like that. So yeah, it has impacted the wider climate movement. I mean, to the point where Jess was nominated and recognized because of it as part of the BBC 100 Women. So it really has done some amazing initiatives kind of locally, and that therefore inspires action on more of a national level and such. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the bits we did in Glasgow in a minute as well.
That's amazing. I mean, and to see how very quickly it became a global movement or initiative, that's just amazing. And as you said, we did talk a lot about community-led initiatives today, and Climate Cafe is definitely one of those initiatives. Can you tell us a bit more about the role such community-led initiatives play in fostering a sense of empowerment and agency among participants?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked a lot, even in the last session about people feeling like, well, I don't know quite what to do, or, how can I help? Or I don't fit quite into that bit of the climate movement. And so by coming together with, the local people that your neighbors and the people down the road and things like that, it really does give kind of that sense of agency of, you can see what actually happens on the ground, essentially. And I think really focusing on local people creates then local action. We've heard it with even the policymakers talking about it, about, how can they, revamp a road and make it into a park, little things like that, but actually every single little thing matters, and it all adds up in terms of inspiring people to kind of do amazing projects. So a couple of the projects that have spun out of some of the climate cafes was one of a local community just talking about energy and their frustrations with local fuel poverty and paying a lot. And they now have an organization that was set up on the basis of a climate cafe that helped 3,000 homes to reduce their energy and has actually provided over 140 renewable devices to these people. There's another initiative as well, which was looking at water use. So again, a local community that was frustrated by the amount of water use that was kind of being used up, basically. And so they spoke with the public body and have been able to reduce the amount of water used by that community by over 1 million litres a year. So it really is creating amazing changes that are like, you guys won't know about them because, they're just tiny, they're little kind of things, but actually those little things create ripple effects. And they go, from your local small thing to the town, to the city, and they hear about stuff, just like they were talking about this morning, and in the cities competing against each other. They kind of go, oh, I haven't heard of that thing, that worked over there, and that person worked over there. So, yeah, I think the inner mix of the people in these communities is amazing, and it just gives them a real sense of empowerment. And kind of a sense of agency to be able to do something kind of where you live, really.
And I think it's also about creating that safe space. Often people are not comfortable talking about such topics if they don't feel comfortable in that group. And I think what Climate Cafe has done is to create that space that everyone feels safe. So they feel like they're among friends and families, so they're comfortable to talk about different issues, and climate change, of course, is being one of them. Any memorable moments or successful stories of climate cafe gatherings that you could share with us today?
Yeah, so what I'm kind of most linked with is with our COP26 event that we ran as part of Climate Reality and Climate Cafe. So we jointly put on an event over the 2 weeks in Glasgow, and we basically had, as we linked up, Jess has a lot of good, amazing connections up in Scotland, and we were able to work with First Bus, who basically has the largest kind of electric bus network in terms of charging infrastructure, and they offered us a space, and we put on over 20 Climate Cafe talks kind of throughout the 2 weeks that was open to everybody, and inclusive spaces is what we were aiming for. So it was highlighting the voices of people that might not usually be heard, and of other leaders that were coming from across the world. I mean, we had people from the Philippines, South America, across Africa, talking about what inspired them. And they were just such amazing conversations. And the idea was to tell your little story for 5 minutes, and then we'll have a discussion about, what is it like in Colombia when really you don't have an option and you can't just afford to go and do a lot of stuff. And it's unsafe to even ride the bus to go somewhere. So, it's really amazing stories that inspired. And then we also did pop-up cafes throughout Glasgow. We had 2 different events that we helped organise as well, on climate justice, and that Shuka organised, and the Just Transition. And then we did, and Jess also hosted, in her spare time during all these 2 weeks, kind of 10 online global cafes. So for anybody that couldn't come to COP and be there in Glasgow on the ground, we would talk about what would happen each day, and what are the leading things, and how is it inspiring people, and what do we think is going on. And people joined, again, from all over the world. We had people waking up at like 2 a.m. to join these cafes. So it was really just inspiring to see the number of people that would come from all walks of life, and to be comfortable to come and ask questions. That was the big thing. It was having, you don't need, no question is a stupid question. Just be relaxed and have a nice cup of tea and a nice biscuit, basically, and have a little chat about what we can do.
Yeah, and my favorite part of the Climate Cafe that I was involved with was that little speaking booth.
Yeah.
And because that's how I connect, and that's how in the field of media I realized that's how I managed to connect with my audience, through those personal stories. And I remember when I was telling my own story, I only started my work in the field of climate change about 8 years ago. And one of the things at the back of my mind was always like, oh, but you've just started. People know about environment and climate change since very young age, so I'm not going to be good enough. I'm not going to be able to do it. But then you listen to other people's stories, and then you realize, okay, it's never too late to start. Everyone has a story. Every story is different, but we all share the same passion and love. And I think that's what's important, and that's what I took from the Climate Cafe that I was a part of. What advice would you give to individuals or groups interested in starting their own Climate Cafe? And by the way, you can do that, or similar community-driven initiatives to address climate change?
Yeah, so basically the Climate Cafe, they have a Climate Cafe network hub. So for anybody that would like to start a Climate Cafe in your own local community, the advice is just to do it, basically. You can get in touch and they will create you even your own bespoke logo that for links, for where you are with your Climate Cafe. And then it will basically, they'll help support you with resources in terms of how to set up things, what kind of spaces, they're usually public spaces, so anybody can join and such, and what kind of topics, you might want to, just ideas and things like that. And the key thing I would say is that it doesn't matter on the size. If you want to start a Climate Cafe because you have 6 friends that want to kind of meet up and talk about it, well, great, start with that, and it will grow from there because you can always speak to other people. So yeah, don't worry on the size. They've had some that I think have grown from like a tiny number of people, and now they've got like 50 different organizations that come together, and and they also range in size as well. You can keep it really small. I mean, I live in a hamlet. We've got like 40 people where we live, but we can all come together and have a chat about what we can do and such. So yeah, it's really just kind of go and do it. And like I say, Climate Cafe will support you while doing that. If you want to write it down, the main email address is info@climate.cafe. And, or again, Google it online in terms of them. There's different, I think, people use the term Climate Cafe in different ways, but this is the kind of official first one, essentially, and they'll help support you in setting one up.
Today we talked a lot about the urgency and the need for a faster transition. How do you see Climate Cafe contributing to these efforts, particularly in mobilizing local communities and driving meaningful change?
Yeah, I would say that one of the big things that Climate Cafe has done is just, again, pulling everybody together, essentially, and just really on the ground, what can we do to change things? One of the things that, again, just the last speakers were all talking about, talking to your politicians and such, by being able to have a group and you can say, we're coming together and we'd like you, as a community to help impact and make this change, it really gives kind of politicians, basically, and elected representatives a chance to go further, a chance to be inspired, and a chance to kind of say that they have the backing of their community. So I'd say that, it's just giving that space. I think we need these spaces. They used to exist, and we just don't, meet up anymore as much, particularly post-COVID, to have those just casual chats and things like that. So, yeah, it's a good opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine. Do stay with us for a session of Climate Cafe shortly after we finish the event. Catherine Smith, a Climate Cafe ambassador and a climate reality leader. Thank you.
Thank you.